Guys, I'm going to show you how to do a clean install on this brand new Latitude, Dell Latitude 5520. Okay, just got it in and powered it up, and let's see what Windows version it's shipped with. Bummer, 20H2. I don't know why they're not doing the latest. It's been out for a while, several months. Anyway, so I knew this would happen. I created a USB stick, bootable stick from the Microsoft Media Creation tool. Go look that up if you're not familiar, how to create this boot drive. And I will show you the problem of when it boots up, it doesn't recognize the hard drive. So let's get to it. Let's power it off, restart it. I'll put in the USB boot drive while it's doing that. Smashing F12. And it recognized the F12. And should recognize that USB stick at the bottom of this list here. Just click on that. And it'll be booting from there. And it just won't recognize the newer chipsets used to connect with the PCI NVMe SSD chips, hard drives. Okay, hit next, install. And I'm going to choose my Windows 10 Pro now. I've done some tweaking in that USB boot drive so I can get this list. You may not see this list on your using the media creation tool. So if you don't see the list and you don't get the results you want, it may choose home for you instead of Pro. I believe it tries to detect the internal licensing and figure out what you are supposed to get. And so if you need a different selection than what it defaults to, then you will have to go find the information on how to modify some text files on that USB drive to get it to prompt you for this list, which again, I've already done that. The media creation tool used to bring up that list regardless, but in the newer latest versions, they don't do it anymore. Okay, I want to do custom install to blow it all away, and I have no hard drive listed here. So that's the problem. Now I'm going to show you how to solve that. Okay, we're going to take this over to another PC. Okay, I got a Precision tucked under my desk over here. Put that USB stick in there. And next you'll want to go to the dell.com/support page. And then you want to punch in your service tag right here. And there's my Latitude 5520. Click on the drivers tab. And don't do the automatic, because this is on a PC, so you'll need to do the manual driver find. And you want to go to the serial ATA category, and you want to find the Intel Rapid Storage Technology driver. And I believe there's a trick here. Let's see. They're saying this is the latest one from October, but I think there's a newer one. Okay, this is the newest one, so just download it. Okay, and here it is over here in my list, my downloads folder. And you want to execute that, just run it. Yes, you want to run it. Now, do not install it. Do not install it. Extract it. And I'm going to put it in a folder I created. for this demo, just called Stuff. Done. Okay, now let's go over to that folder Stuff. And you're going to drill down into this numbered folder here. And there's F6. And you're going to be using some of these subfolders here in a minute. But just stay up on that F6 folder and right click and send that over to your USB drive that I just stuck in this PC right here, which is this one. Okay, copies that over. And now on my media created tool USB drive, I now have that F6 folder over here. Okay, now let's go back to the laptop. Okay, now let's load the driver and we'll browse out to that USB stick, F6 folder, and come down to this VMD and just highlight that. I think you can also do this non-VMD. I'm not sure what the difference was. I didn't spend the time to research it, but just select that. They're probably both the same. And I just selected the top one. Not sure the difference again. I didn't research managed versus unmanaged. I just chose the first one to get the basic drive. I'm just trying to get the basic driver here so it can see the drive. Let that scan. Boom, and there it is. There's all your partitions. You can whack them out of there. Again, there's other ways and other methodologies. Like I could have just did a clean install on and left the partitions alone and just chosen the old OS partition and just reinstalled on top of that, leaving all these other partitions in there. If you know what those partitions are and want to keep them. Again, they're used for Dell support issues and for restoring the original configuration as shipped from Dell. I don't want any of that. You may want it. So I just whacked off the partitions and the driver has already been loaded. That's what allowed me to do that. And I'm just going to hit next and it'll install Windows as usual. Now, that's all you need to know to get your clean install going. Hold on and I will explain for this specific laptop the drivers that you're going to need. Okay, now it's up. I'm going to hit Control Shift Function F3. And we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to reboot and come right up without having to prompt me for all those questions. Okay, so while the laptop is rebooting, let's talk about the drivers that are needed to get this install completed. Here's the entire list I have here, and I've gotten these from that same page, the drivers and downloads page for the Latitude 5520. If you're not familiar, after you punch in your service tag, you'll get the exact drivers specific for your model. And you can, again, select category, and I'm going to show you the list of what you need because there is a lot that may not apply directly to your laptop. One thing I do is I forego a lot of the apps that are from Dell, such as monitoring for new updates and security systems for enterprise management, but just skipping a lot of those items. So here's the list I typically come with on laptops, also similar for desktops. And I'll just quickly go over some of these. The names here are, for example, let's talk about the BIOS. So the BIOS is here, and you're going to see a nice English description of what that is. the file name is actually, when you drop down, you can actually see the file name it's going to download for you. And I'm going to show you the list based on the file name, so you might have to do a little back and forth to go and help you do the downloads, but I'll just mention what these are. So this is the BIOS. Usually every 2 to 4 months when the laptop's new, they're coming out with new ones, so try to get this done. I also, in front of each of the downloaded files, I put a number. This is kind of how I organize things by priority of installing on the laptop. So you always want your chipset to be first. Items after the chipset are not as crucial in the order that they're loaded. 5-10 years ago it was very crucial. I want to say these days it's not as crucial, and usually what I find is the video and audio drivers are near the bottom of the list of priorities, chipsets at the very top, and the other items are somewhere in the middle, and I've seen them vary depending on the model of desktop or laptop. Anyway, get the BIOS done first. It'll require a reboot. Then you can start working on the other drivers. Again, 10 years ago, each driver install required a restart, and it will nag you to do that. I have found that you don't have to restart, and you can finish like almost all these drivers until you get near the end and then do your restart. Okay, the chipset, that's just the basic chipset of how Windows talks to the laptop. You need that. There's your Ethernet controller, your Wi-Fi, and your Bluetooth. Actually, I might have those switched, but you need both of those, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Management engine. I'm not going to explain what these things do. I'm just going to tell you a quick summary and that you do need them. Rapid storage technology for managing storage. Integrated sensor, I believe that's for the fingerprint part. It's either part of the fingerprint or it's the hard drive free fall sensor, because this laptop does have the option to have spinning hard drives in it. They include the free fall sensor. I believe that might be what that is. Serial I/O driver. There's a virtual COM3 port driver that talks to the chipset. If you don't install this, your device manager will show an exception. Even though you may not think, oh, I don't have a COM port on the outside of the laptop, there's still an internal virtual one. This is for the memory card reader on the side. There's a port on the side, right side of the laptop, that's for I think micro cards. And there's your audio driver, graphics driver, which includes an audio driver if you plug in an HDMI cable for the external connection. Thunderbolt, which allows you to do like docking stations and power management for plugging in higher wattage items into the USB-C ports. Dynamic tuning is used for thermal management of the CPU. Control Vault is specifically for the fingerprint reader on the top right of the keyboard. I believe some of the laptops may not have fingerprint reader options, so I'm not sure if you still need that driver or not for that scenario. Security status application. I couldn't figure out if I needed that or not. I went ahead and installed it. It was a very small app, and it installed very quick, so I didn't mind installing it. This is the Thunderbolt firmware update. Depending on your CPU and chipset, it'll blow an error at you saying, I believe, let's see, I have it here. This is the problem. It'll blow this error at you, and it'll look like this. And it basically means your chipset is newer, and it doesn't use that older style utility to do the updates anymore. It's included in the in the firmware update. I'm sorry, it's included in the BIOS update up here. So probably don't need this. And this was my SSD drive firmware update that I used. It's very specific to certain models. You can go into here to look for different chipset. You can say all the serial ATA category, you can see all the different SSD drives and hard drives that may need firmware updates if you can identify your specific model, which you'll do under Device Manager. Under disk drives, you can see the specific model. Even then, I found it's a hit and miss whether it's a certain revision of that model of the SSD chip. Okay, so back to the laptop with those drivers I have loaded. And I'll tell it to always open when I insert that. And let me go back to this real quick. So this is called the Sysprep Audit mode. When I hit Control Shift Function F3, it got me into this mode. And so every time you reboot the laptop, you'll get this screen. And what it allows you to do after you install all your drivers, you get everything the way you like it. If this laptop is not for you and you're helping a friend or going to sell it as new, after you get done installing all the drivers, all the Windows updates, you can select shutdown. You can choose, requires a long talk, but you can create the out-of-box experience, OOBE. You hit OK, the laptop will clear everything out and shut itself down. You can then hand the laptop to a friend or sell it, and when they turn the laptop on, it'll act just like they bought it new from Dell, even though it has all your updates in it. So every time I boot it up now, I'm going to cancel that as I work on updating these drivers. Okay, and I created a folder with all the drivers in it. And I'm going to grab all those and just paste them into my downloads folder as I work on them. Okay, so now they are all in my downloads folder. I'm going to pull this out. Don't need it anymore. And I'm just going to work on this. And the first thing I'm going to do is tell it I don't want to view this in a group mode. Just group by name. So I get my numbers. I get it all in order. So first thing we're going to do is run the BIOS update utility. And this should tell me I'm going to upgrade from the current to the new. Also, kind of odd, if you accidentally download the BIOS and it happens to already be up to date, it'll show you current version 1152, new version 1152, and it still lets you hit the update button. It's kind of odd, but anyway, if it's all the same, don't bother updating it. Just exit out. I'm going to update it here. We'll let it run. And basically it's going to get it preloaded, then require me to do a restart, at which point it'll then run through the typical BIOS update routine, and I'll just fast forward through that. Also, I believe that it won't let you do the update if your battery is less than about 50%, regardless of whether you have it plugged in or not. I don't know. I've seen different BIOS and different laptops. We have different rules on what that threshold is. Sometimes you'll have to get your laptop charged up to a certain amount before it'll let you do the update. And a quick note, do not have your network plugged in. Don't let it get access to the internet during this whole procedure. You're going to plug that in at the end and let Windows get access to updates at the very end of all this. Also note, it's actually doing several passes here, and this little summary statement here will tell you which component it's working on. Okay, successful, and now rebooting. Okay, that might have taken, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. I wasn't timing it. And go to our downloads and start the next one. So usually what I do to keep track of it, I'll just highlight what I just did, delete it, work on the next thing. So there's the chipset. And usually what I do just to learn and see how I'm progressing is I'll right click on this PC and I'll click properties, and if you grab the right margin of this screen and slide it out, you can quickly get to device manager. Close that window, and in device manager slide that to the left side of the screen here, and you can kind of keep track of how you're doing. So your goal in device manager is to get everything healthy. So these other devices here, all the device drivers you're about to install should cure all these exceptions with the yellow exceptions here. You don't want any of those. So for example, the easy one is the Ethernet controller. So that's easy. These others, you don't really know about them. It takes a lot of research to find out which drivers they go with. But basically, what I do is I work my way down the list, and as I get to the very end, I'll find a few stragglers that I couldn't identify. I'll go back to the Dell site and try to find out which driver cures that exception. Okay, going to download. So, oops, I got that chipset right here. Hit next, accept, install, and again it'll knock out a few of these on the left here as it cures them, and it should tell you it's finished installing. And I've had people ask me why not just plug it into the internet and let Windows resolve all this, and the answer is that usually Microsoft is handed the drivers from Dell after time goes by, so usually Microsoft is a little bit behind on the drivers, and doing the latest drivers from Dell will give you the latest and greatest trouble-free scenario. And even after you install all these, there might be 1 or 2 items that Windows still needs to connect to their update server and resolve some issues behind the scenes. Some will be these items here. You might have a few left that you just can't get resolved, and Windows Update will cure those. In addition to some other items that are not shown here, Windows will also get all that tightened up for you, and you'll end up with a really nice experience on your laptop from day one. Okay, so that chipset finished installing, and now a lot of times these windows won't pop back up on top, so if you have other windows obscuring them, realize they might have finished their task and they were waiting on you. And what I've been doing is on the chipset, I actually do a restart now because that's very crucial to the operation. I do a restart on that. The other items from all the way down my list, I pretty much don't do a restart on them. Some will tell you that a restart is needed, but what they're saying is that the restart is needed if you are needing to utilize those updates immediately. So delaying them while you install other drivers has been just fine in my experience. There will definitely be exceptions with certain laptops on certain items, but in general, overall, that's been how it's worked. Okay, so I just installed the chipset. I'm going to delete that. Okay, Ethernet controller. Let me get my list back. Okay. Okay, and I'm not going to bore you with all the individual installs here, except to say that be careful on some of these, like these larger ones, like this audio driver and especially the graphics driver. Like when you double click on those, it'll seem like the laptop's not even launching them. Well, they're huge and they take a long time to load before they even prompt you to hit next, next, next. So just be patient. Don't think that nothing's happening and then double click on it a second time, because then you're going to have two prompts. I'll stop on some of these if I think of something else to talk about. And some of them are silent installers, so to speak. They'll actually not even prompt you to install. You're just going to double click. They'll do their thing in the background, and then they'll come up with this screen and say it was successful. So I've worked my way down all the way to the graphics driver, and it didn't even prompt me for anything. It just kind of did its magic in the background. The screen flashed a few times, and then finally it said it's done successfully. So just hit close, and I'm actually going to I'll delete that one, and I'll just do a restart now, just because I've just installed quite a few drivers. Okay, we've rebooted, and I'm gonna get my screen set up again. And we can see I've knocked out quite a few exception items here. And let's continue. Okay, I believe this tuning driver is the one that'll cure most of these exceptions. There we go. Got me down to 2 right here. It's pretty good. Okay, I'm just waiting for that message box. Close that. Okay, I'm going to delete that. There's the control vault for the fingerprint reader. There's that. That's cured. One more item to go here. And this does this flashing process. I don't know. I guess it's a combo installer driver and firmware flashing installation, and it takes quite a while. Okay, that finished. Oh, now it's finished. Okay, my last driver. I did not do the research on this, but it was small enough. I thought, let me just install it. I might do the research on that the next couple laptops I do. That's done, pretty painless. Okay, and let me run this firmware update for the... Okay, it's complaining. I'm going to guess. I'm not going to research it. I usually on these drive updates, it either works or it doesn't. And the reason it usually doesn't work is because it's not the exact model matching. Delete that. That already told you before. It just doesn't. It's not needed on these versions of this laptop. So we're all done. Yet we have this unknown device, and the cure for that is now to plug in, or if you have wireless, get that going for you. And I'm just going to say no for this work network. I'm going to say no. I don't need this laptop working on my network really. And what I've noticed is once you plug into the network, Windows knows it could reach out and touch the Microsoft Update servers, but it kind of needs like permission to kind of sort of. So you got to go to settings and update and tell it check for updates. Then it's kind of like, oh, we got to get all this other stuff you never initialized on this laptop going, and it'll be doing that in the background. It won't really be, it'll tell you some things here. and I'm not sure again what that is for. This Intel C1051 device. I couldn't find any information on it really, Googling it. But all I know is that doing the Windows update, it will find it and match it up. Okay, and there it goes. So one of these items here is going to cure that. Okay, not that one. Okay, something just happened there. Whatever that was, cured it. I don't know. I might have to watch my own video to see what happened there. Okay, so it's doing some graphical updates, video driver updates or something. But already you can see it's all cured. There's no exceptions listed in the device manager, so we're pretty good to go with all the driver installs. I love it. Now we'll just wait on Microsoft to update some other things. And let's just do the old WinVer here. And 21H2, I love it. And the benefit of doing this is so that if you're on 20H2, you don't have to have all these updates and all the bag and have Windows tracking how it got these updates and how to unroll it all and unravel it all, taking up more and more of your hard drive up. Not as crucial if you have like a 512 gig module, but if you have 128 or 256, it could get critical for you. Anyway, why waste the space? And even though Windows says restart now, make sure that it's really finished for each line item and that it says pending restart. Some of them might still be downloading or installing, even though it shows the restart now button, and you could hit it, it'll deal with it, and when it comes back up, boots back up, it'll behind the scenes be working on things. But I usually wait until all these line items are completely downloaded and completely installed, and then I hit restart. Also, just as a precaution, just go to your recycle bin and delete all those downloaded files, the files in the download folder out of there. I can't remember if redoing a Sysprep from audit mode kills that or not. Okay, that took several minutes, but it's ready for restart. So I'm going to click on that now. Okay, we're back up. And one more time, I'm just going to go back in here and check. Check for updates one more time. Sometimes there's a prerequisites, and sometimes you'll get all your updates done, come back and find out it's got a few more to do. Okay, some Defender stuff it'll update. And I guess I haven't done the research to figure out when this becomes a normal part of the updates. This is kind of like optional. And sometimes I do them if I have time, sometimes I don't. I'm just going to forego it on this deal. And okay, got Defender all updated. I'm going to reboot one more time. Okay, we're back up. I'm not going to cancel out of the screen. I am going to just show you what is used on the hard drive. So there, use space 28 gigs. This was a 512. So when you're in this audit mode, one thing you need to know is if you're walking away from the laptop for a while, it will have the default Windows power or screensaver come on with the lockout. So if you walk away for more than a certain amount of time, I can't remember what it is, 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, it's going to have a log on screen, and you can't log on because it's in audit mode with the administrator, which has no password, but it wants a password. So the only thing you can do then is go on the right side, bottom right corner of the screen, tell it power down, power off, and restart. If you want to prevent that, just go into Control Panel, Power Options, change plan settings and just tell it don't put the computer to sleep. Change that to never. Oh, I'm sorry. When it's plugged in, change it to never. Save the changes. And that'll prevent that from happening. Okay, so we're in audit mode, and now we're going to prepare the computer to hand it to a new client so they can have the experience of opening the laptop, turning it on, and it's going to prompt them for all the typical questions that Microsoft Windows prompts for when you buy a new computer. So we're not going to tell it to reboot. We need it to shut down, because if it reboots, it'll start asking us those questions. Generalize, just you can, it doesn't matter really if you check that or not. It is important for corporate environments to generalize. It clears out certain things that are used when you connect to domains, etc. So for my environment, I always check it, but if you don't check it and you realize you didn't check it, it's no big deal for most home users. So click OK. It'll then start processing registry entries, and also while it's starting that, go ahead and make sure you've unplugged your network cable. The reason is, as it's clearing things out, sometimes the network auto detect mechanism will kick in. It'll clear out the network settings, but then it's still connected to the network, so then the auto detector says, hey, we have a network found here, and it recreates the network right before you shut down the computer. So best if you can unplug that to prevent that from happening. And this procedure usually takes anywhere from, I've seen it as fast as 1 minute and as long as 6 minutes on some older laptops, so it can take some time. And the audit mode basically means there's no user really created. It's a temporary kind of strange administrator account that they create, again, temporarily, and it's not a real true administrator, and it will basically allow it to just delete things very quickly in preparation for an out-of-box experience. And there it is. It's all shut down and ready for handing to the client. Thanks for watching. Any questions, comments below? Thanks.